Guys and girls, we're going to start our still life project and begin texturing the walls. What we need to do first is go online and find an image of a stucco texture for our wall. So I'll type in seamless stucco texture. There we go. I'll go to images, go to our search tools, change the size to medium. What I'm looking for is a texture that is small. I can see the pattern. Um, I don't want it to have a lot of these little dots in there. Something very subtle to the eye. And I can always change the color of it in Photoshop. I'll load this one. You can see it loading here. And let's see. Okay, this one looks pretty good. So right mouse click, save image as. It's always important to create a project folder and make sure you save everything into your source images folder. You do not want to get in the habit of saving it in the downloads, because what happens is, uh, you know, when you load your scene, you won't be able to find, your textures won't load as soon as you open your project file, because Maya is looking for it. And those files are all over the place. It might be on a desktop. Okay, so I just opened up Photoshop and I saved that file from Google to my source images folder, and I named it seamless texture. So now I'm in Photoshop and I just went to file, open. I'm looking for my seamless texture. So stucco seamless. There we go. Now the dimensions are 250 by 250, which are extremely small, and that's okay. I'm going to lose some quality, but our camera is going to be set up a little bit away from the um, the wall, so it doesn't matter. So let's double click on the background layer, and we don't have to get into naming it. I'm going to create a new layer, which is this icon here, or we can go to the top of the screen and click on Layer, New Layer, and I'll just call this color. All right, so let's click on our stucco layer, which is layer 0, and I'm going to click on Image, Adjustments, and I want to desaturate it. So I'm going to get rid of any color that would be in there. All right, I'm going to press Command plus if we're using a Mac, and the color I'm going to, I actually like this kind of minty green. So I press OK. I go to my paint bucket. Shortcut is G. You might have the gradient on there. So I just right mouse click on that icon and I'm going to change it to the paint bucket tool. All right, now I'm just going to click there, and on the right side under the layers you can see the normal. Change that to multiply, and voila. You can always change the opacity down if you think there's too much of that color, but I like it at 100%. Great. Now we'll go to File, Save As, and I'll change the format to a Targa image, and we're going to call this Green Wall, and click Save. Press OK. All right. Now I'm going to turn off the color, and I'll save this one after I apply a, let's go to levels, and I'm going to bring this to the right. What I'm trying to do is create a specular map. So I want to have some white values and some darker values. So I'm looking at this image and I see that there's some little black dots on here, which I like, and then I can see that there are white areas. And so that's going to be my specular map. So I go to File, Save Scene As, and I'll change the format to Targa, and we'll call this wall underscore specular. Get rid of the .targa, and then save. Press OK. Perfect. So let's quit Photoshop. I'm not going to save anything. Now I'll click on my wall, and I need to go under the UV automatic map. Now what that does is it allows me to have textures that perfectly are aligned. There won't be any stretching. Okay. Now with this wall selected, I'll press G. G means repeat the previous command, and since my scene is going to be set up looking through here, then I'll just press G one more time on this wall, and I'll look over here to this particular wall as well. I'll press G, and while I'm at it, I know that I'm going to add a texture to the floor. So let's just click on the floor. I'll press G. All right, perfect. So it's my scene. My still life is actually right there in front of me, or behind the camera. Okay, so with any wall selected, I'm going to select this back wall, and then right mouse click and hold, assign new material. I'll go to the Arnold AI standard, and I'm going to rename this to green wall. Perfect. Now under the color, the diffuse color, on the right side there's that little input checker square. Click on it. This pops up. Go to File, and we're going to look for our file. Our file is found underneath that little manila folder that we'll click on, and I remember naming it to green wall. So there's the image. We'll press OK, and voila. Now that does not look very good if we kept it that way. The textures aren't stretched, however it's too large, so I'll just click on the wall. Okay. Now sometimes you have to thumb through your attribute editor to get to your green wall texture or your AI standard. So it's probably good to get in the habit of clicking on Edit, Delete by Type History. So now when I click on that wall, I just have these three tabs. So it just makes it easier for me to see that particular texture. Okay, so I'll click on that little black, I guess the inputs, it's like a triangle. And now I'll see the file. I'll click on the Place 2D texture, and I'm going to change the repeat UV from 1 to 1, and I'll change it 10 to 10. Okay, so one thing that you'll notice with this particular texture is that I can see that pattern, which means it's not a good texture. So I found one earlier on Google, and we'll just open it in Photoshop. So File, Open, and I think I named it Wall Diffuse. It was a larger image. Okay, so I'll just repeat the same process. I'll go to Layer, New Layer, press OK. I already have my paint bucket, and I'll change the normal to multiply. Okay, so I go to File, Save As, and I'll change the format to Targa, and I'll call this Wall Diffuse underscore 01, just so I can differentiate this from the others. I'll minimize that. Okay, so let's go back into our shader. Okay, so I have the wall selected. I click on that input. I'll click on File, and I'll look for my wall diffuse underscore 01. Now, it won't allow me to select it here for some reason. So if I click on the image files and change it to all files, There we go. And now you can see a better seamless texture. All right, now um, this is what's giving me that little weird, there we go. Okay, now I know that when I stand this close to the wall, I don't see that pattern. It's probably much smaller, so I'll go back into my Place 2D texture node and change it to 20 by 20. And that looks much better. When I get closer to the wall, let's try 30 by 30. Okay, that looks much better. Okay, so that's perfect. Now I'm just going to select the walls. All right, this wall and then the other wall. And I just right mouse click and hold. Go down to the bottom and go to the Assign Existing Material and find my wall texture. Oops, that's not it. It's actually green wall. So let's press undo. Right mouse click and hold. And green wall. There we go. So that's how we texture our walls. I'll give us a quick render. We could see what it looks like in our render view. Now we have, our dome light and our AI sky. What I want to do is probably tone down my exposure for the dome light. Let's change it to a value of 2. Probably should add an area light in this window so you guys could see the texture. But let me just go ahead and cancel this render, and I'll do that in the next tutorial so we can actually see the quality of this. But right now I'm very happy with the textures on the walls. Let's go to the create light, and I'll add an area light. Zoom out. Scale this up. And let's have this pointing straight down. Move it up here. And let's go to the Arnold tab, and I'll change the exposure to a value of 13. And let's see what we get now. Let's go Arnold render view, and we might get a little bit more color into the scene. I'll change that value up to, let's say, 15, and keep on moving it until we see something. But I'm just going to stop this tutorial right here, and we will add all of the detail into the scene in our next lighting tutorial. So again, that's just a simple way of adding textures to your walls and repeating the texture in the UVs to 30 by 30. All right.